Hey all, it's your guy Aaron, and today I wanted to talk about the idea I have for a software platform or social network platform, you could say. So, yeah, I mentioned before that I am a programmer and I would really like to be writing socialist software, and I think a lot of the stuff I've been saying about building an alternate economy and like mutual aid networks among those in your community and stuff, like that kind of thing, I think is going to almost require, software for it to work well. And I've got an idea for a piece of software that I think could really facilitate a lot of those projects, or a lot of those the process or the functioning of that economy, or even just building community online. But also it can work for like online, like just like globally distant based communities, but it can also be used locally. So yeah, if I could snap my fingers and have all my bills paid and food and all that sorted, then I would probably just spend like most of my time working on this. But I recognize that it is quite a big project, and yeah, I think if I were to just focus on doing it in my spare time, it's gonna take like quite a long time, and there's other stuff I want to do as well, like there's the stuff on YouTube, there's a book I want to write, so it's gonna be like years and years of development, and so that's why I'm hesitant to start. And I'm thinking, well, let me try and do some YouTube stuff first, let me try and like write my book first, because then potentially those things can help gain interest or visibility for me as a person and what I'm trying to do. And potentially, people might want to help fund the initiative once I actually do get around to it, I guess. So yeah, to begin with, what I am thinking of is a peer-to-peer serverless communication application. So what that means is it is going to communicate from your device directly to your contact's device, like your friend or whatever it is that it ends up being called. So it's not going to go to a server and then the server is going to connect you. It's just going to be going directly to the IP address or whatever is used to locate them. So that's the peer-to-peer part, that it's connecting like straight from you to another person. And then why I say serverless is because well, I mean, peer-to-peer is serverless, but the concept of a serverless social network is actually not really that talked about much. I haven't seen. I think one of the main problems with that is what a server does for you is it allows you to upload, say, a photo, or like in the case of YouTube, a video, or on Twitter you can, it might just be text, but like you send that information to their servers and they keep it in like a database or whatever, And then every time somebody wants to see that content, they read it out of the database and send that information to the viewer. And so what that allows is for the person making the content has the only has to use the data for uploading. They don't need to then have the data for downloading to new people. The other thing is, once it's uploaded to the server, you could, like in theory, delete it from your device. And so those are the two major hurdles to a serverless social network. And so that's also why, even though there's like political and social reasons why this kind of software could be really, really important now, it's also going to have quite a limited feature set now, because, like, for example, even if it was just text, then the data storage on your device and the data to like basically re-upload it every time someone asks for it is going to be pretty small and insignificant, because text is a really small amount of data when it comes to computers. So I think I spoke about this before a little bit, but just to give you some info on it, computers basically work off ones and zeros, because they make them really small, but that's how we can tell, like, we can control via electricity, basically on and off. And that's how it's just a lot and lots of ones and zeros, and you can actually do calculations on them and stuff. So there's circuitry that, like, you know, can send the info in certain ways that allows us to do calculations on it. But for storage, you're literally storing ones and zeros on like a hard drive, or you know, like a CD or whatever it is. And so those the ones so for text, you're looking at either 8 or 16 ones and zeros per character. So, like, you'll have 16 for the character sets that have like every alphabet in them, for example. So if you take that, then, so like a 10-word letter is 10 times 16, 160 ones and zeros. Now, if we look at a picture, so let's say you've got like a 1920 by 1080. I think that's something around 2 million pixels. So that's like, if you took like a screenshot of a desktop, or even some phones are that size, but that's like full HD, not 4K, but the one or whatever it is. But so whatever it is, 1 million, 2 million pixels, each dot in the photo is got red, blue and green. And so you basically take 8 ones and zeros, and they control, like, or yeah, how does it work again? Is it 8 per, anyway, let's say it's 8 per pixel, so that's 8 million, or if it's a 2 million, if it's a 2 megapixel picture, that's 16 million. So, you know, if you wanted to get to 16 million in words, it would be, what, like, oh geez, like 1 million letters of text. So yeah, think of like 1 million letters. If the average word is, say, 8 letters, then you're looking at, like, I don't know, my maths is failing me, but maybe like 1.25, so like 125 words versus one screenshot. That's like such an arbitrary like thing, but like basically the point I'm trying to make is like or like Twitter gives you 140 basically, so 140 times 16. I don't think this math is that interesting, but like, so you're on like 300, no, 3,000 ones and zeros for a tweet. Jeez, I'm on such a tangent. But anyway, it is important because this is like literally why certain features will have different like adoption rates on such a thing, because when you take it off the server and you put it onto the device, you've got to be storing that on your phone. So like if it's on your phone, so like for example, think of like when you're installing this app, it's going to say like, okay, how much space do you want to reserve for the app? So I guess if you use Gmail, you have like a 15 gigabyte inbox. So if you wanted something similar, you could reserve 15 gigabytes on your phone, which is a lot. Like if all you were doing was communicating via text, then you might get away with like, I don't know, 100 megabytes maybe. But so yeah, then the other problem is, of course, when you want people to, well, there is another problem I haven't mentioned, but the second of the ones I have is that when someone wants to see your content, instead of the server being the one to read it off their database and send it to them, it's now still the content creator that's doing that, which, you know, is the problem if you don't have a lot of data, if your data is limited. So basically in a few years time, I think, you know, we're going to be getting better and better storage and better internet, and so the problem, those two problems in particular, are going to become less and less of a problem. And even the third problem I haven't mentioned yet will become less of a problem, but we'll get to that now. But my nose is itchy. So yeah, so as your phone has more and more data, and as data usage gets cheaper and cheaper, you're going to be able to have more and more of that capability to host it yourself. So, but there's important reasons for why you would want this over a server, because a server is like a centralized point, and anytime there's something centralized like that, there's potential for exploitation, because by going after that single point, you can have access to multiple people. And so if each person is their own host, that's the least dangerous or the least like vulnerable configuration, because if one person gets breached or hacked or whatever, then it's only them that's affected. And also relevant for things like censorship. So with pretty much every social media platform we have right now, the censorship happens through the centralized server, basically. So YouTube would delete your video off their database, or Twitter would, you know, or at least set it as deleted. Like they might keep the data, but just mark it as deleted so no one sees it. But anyway, so, you know, now that does expose a fourth problem, but let's get to the third one. So the third problem with this kind of network is that if your phone dies, if you're out of data, or, you know, you turn your phone off, whatever, you out of cell phone signal area or whatever, or your Wi-Fi is dead or something, you're not going to be able to send the content up to people. And I'm going to mention the fourth problem as well, because the solutions tie together as well. And so the fourth problem then is that if you don't have a centralized point of control, how do you prevent bad actors from having being able to do harm to others without this centralized mechanism to remove them? And so I think the solution that works for that is to make this an invite-only network, but not just the regular invite-only of that's who can get in, but rather a system whereby you are basically vouching for people. And so let's say like you vouched for someone, they are going to show up on your profile or whatever under like the people that you vouched for. And so if someone is a bad actor, people are going to be able to go to the ones who vouched for them and be like, yo, why did you invite this person? Why are you vouching for them? And so I was thinking what might be a good way of doing it is to have 3 people needing to vouch for you to get access into a network. 3 people in a network, because there might be like multiple networks. You could be in lots, like I guess like Discord, there's lots of servers. It's kind of like that, but you would need 3 people to vouch for you, I guess minimum. And then if you do something that people don't like, they go to the ones who vouched for you, and they're like, those people can try and help you like to adjust your behavior as well, because they obviously vouch for you because they think you're a cool person, and they wouldn't really want you to lose access to the network. But like if this person's been reported and that's like maybe there's like a symbol showing it that they're like under review or something, then on your page of people you vouch for, it's people are going to see whether you're vouching for people who are causing trouble or not. And if you vouch for a lot of people who cause trouble, you might get reported for that yourself, because like, why are you not being careful with who you invite? And so then the people who vouched for you would need to try and help you with that. And then if you choose not to no longer vouch for somebody and they go below 3 supporters or whatever, then that like automatically removes them from the network. So that way you solve the problem socially, and there can be software to help it, like private rooms that get created for talking about a report with the people that reported it, the person who got reported, and anyone else who's relevant, and the people that vouched for the one who got reported can all like automatically get put into a room where they can get discussed. Maybe it's like a misunderstanding and like everything gets explained and they're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna drop my reports or whatever. Or maybe there's something problematic that needs to get sorted out, and it gets worked through. And even if somebody is reporting like abusing the report feature, then when you're unpacking it and people are like discovering that you shouldn't have really done it, and maybe you're adamant about it and you keep doing it, you can get reported yourself then for reporting it. So, and that way it's like a self-moderation thing, including a way for people to get removed from the network if they're bad actors. And furthermore, what I would want to do is to make the people that vouch for you also be co-hosts of your data. Now obviously they might want to set limits on how much they give you, but it would have to be like at least like maybe at least 20% of what they've given themselves, for example, or 15% or something. But like, you would want it to be proportional to how much you have, but also significant enough that maybe it can keep, you know, the most recent or most popular content that person has. And then that solves one of the other problems of what if your phone's dead or you're out of signal or out of data, because then if you are, so every time somebody is like requesting your user object or whatever, it's going to come back with who's vouching you, and then if you are offline, it's going to go to those people and see if they have the thing you're looking for. And so that way you get a little bit more of the always online vibe, and you make sure that vouching for people has a cost to it, and so people are only going to do it if they're serious about it. And so in the future, what you might do is you might have multiple devices linked to your account, and one of those devices might be like your own personal server, and it could host like a lot of your data, and then maybe your phone would only host like the most recent or popular content or something. Or you could choose basically how to split it, but there's options for that as well. But I wouldn't want people to host other people. I would only want them to host themselves. Or if those people like sort of sign up for like a hosting package, but it's like you could have some kind of terms and service or something to try and manage that properly, because it's not going to really be a concern of the app itself. The app is going to assume everyone is hosting for themselves, I think, just, you know, and their co-host, just because of wanting it to be difficult to do it in a shortcut way that sort of undermines the social value in it. If you can just go get invited and hosted by anyone, to, you know, maybe for certain global networks they might have that kind of thing, and that's cool. But like if it's I guess if it was in your local neighborhood, there might be like a local neighborhood Wi-Fi, and only on that Wi-Fi does it work. But even then, like, I don't know, I think it's better if you get invited and vouched for by actual individual people using the network. And so basically, it's true that doesn't necessarily make the place healthy, because you could have a bunch of edgelords who kick out anyone who gets offended. And so, you know, it's not like the software is like creating a socially responsibility. What it is just allowing for accountability, and then you will still need to be careful about building your network. Only invite people you actually trust on it. And so that's why I call it a trust-based network, because you have like personal skin in the game, and you know, you're only on the network if at least 3 people in the network think you're trustworthy. And so the benefit of that is then, if you are looking at certain services, like I'll just give you an example of, like, let's say an Uber. Maybe you want to, so I don't want to facilitate transactions on the app. They won't, it's kind of a philosophical thing, but it's also because it would undermine the social value of it, I think. But like, I think you could link to external pages. So if someone did have like a private you paid money for a service, they could link to it, but the app itself wouldn't allow it to happen inside the app. But what it might allow is for people to offer the service for free. And so you could have like components in the app that allows you to request a ride, and someone who's like a driver on the network can accept it the way they do in Uber, and it can use maps to show you where they are, where they're going, etc. Try and make it like as nice to use as possible. And then if somebody in your community has got a car and wants to offer their their ability to transport, they can sign up as a driver, and then people in the community who need a lift, and then that it's not going to be someone dodge picking you up, because it's someone who's trusted in the community, and if they do anything dodge, then they can be kicked off the community because it'll be reported. The people that vouch for them will get in crap, and potentially you could have like a setting where like don't allow drivers who have unresolved reports or something, and like they're not gonna be able to do what they want to do. So you can have those kinds of things, or like requests for aid and stuff, where it's not going to be taken advantage of someone wanting to do harm or respond to it instead of someone to help. That kind of stuff is awesome for the trust network, and I want to talk about that kind of stuff a bit more later. But for now, I'm going to finish off after one more idea, which is I will then want to be able to allow people to transfer files, whether it's like PDFs in your theory library or whatever, or memes, and then to allow that transfer, as well as allowing the transfer of modules and the app itself, so you could update each other's software and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it for today. Bye.